All right, I'll call the meeting to order. Were we properly noticed?
The meeting has been noticed according to open meeting laws.
Roll call.
President Johnson.
Here.
Trustee Harding.
Here.
Commissioner Hayes. Here. Commissioner Lederhouse.
Here.
Commissioner Morath. Here. Commissioner Olson.
Here.
Commissioner Hayes. I got you, okay.
All right, we'll start with citizen participation per Village Resolution 2017-01. Anyone wishing to address the Plan Commission during citizen participation will be allowed 5 minutes. Your subject must specifically relate to matters under the jurisdiction of the Plan Commission, whether on the agenda or not. The Plan Commission should not engage in a discussion regarding comments because it was not part of the publicly noticed agenda. Upon conclusion of this citizen participation segment, members of the audience are not allowed further comment unless they're participating in a public hearing or if specifically allowed by a majority vote of the Plan Commission due to involvement in an agenda item. All right. Seeing no one in the audience who wants to speak during citizen participation, we'll close that, move on to minutes. Approval of minutes from October 13th.
I'll approve the minutes from October 13th.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Item 1, under ordinances and code amendments. Amend the general development plan for Honey Creek Plan Development District for property located on Honey Creek Road west of South Executive Drive to change the personal storage facility standards for Lot 2 of CSM 4915 to allow electrical service to certain units. I-43 Investments, LLC applicant, Paul Van Hinklem, PEPLS agent. This is application 2025-26. So I'll open the public hearing. I know we talked about this a bit last month. So Orrin, and we've got the applicant here, if you can walk us through the changes.
Yes, so at our meeting last month, if you recall, this item was postponed. The final development plan portion of this item was postponed for 2 reasons. 1, so we could bring back this general development plan amendment, and 2, so that we could talk about some of the fire department concerns. So those are 2 things that we're going to address tonight, this being the first. At the last meeting, the Plan Commission recommended approval of, and the board subsequently approved a general development plan amendment to address the height, and that was a standard that was listed at 20 feet. It got changed to 30 feet, so the maximum building height is now 30 feet for this plan development. The way that this plan development originally got approved, it stated that the allowable uses were self-storage and no outdoor storage, and that they were subject to all of the standards in the limited industrial, which is the base zoning, subject to the few changes that are listed in a table. And all of the relevant provisions related to personal storage facilities. We found, though, that one of those standards for personal storage facilities says no electric power shall be run to the storage facilities except for lighting. In this instance, we know from our last discussion that the developer wants to have power in these units. That's their angle, is to be able to market these as a higher end product where folks can have their vehicle, and access their vehicles year round, have them charging in there and ready to go, and in a climate controlled setting as well. And so the proposed amendment is to add a new table that adjusts the personal storage facility standards, specifically the one that says no electrical power shall be run to the storage facilities from section 510-44D3. And there's some proposed language in there from the developer that says climate control and electrical power will be available in buildings 17, 18, 19, 20. RV boat storage typical. If market demand exists, then the developer can add these features to buildings 13, 14, 15, and 16. I had the clerk send out an updated version of my staff review. I apologize. The one that ended up in the packet didn't have my recommendations added. It was an earlier draft. I've got 3 recommendations for this proposal. The first would be to specify the language that the developer has proposed to acknowledge the number of units in the buildings where they would like to have the power. This was something that we discussed at the last meeting as well. So, as an example, in Building 17, they're going to have 1 to 3 units on the south side of that building. It's an expandable space, if you will, so they'll either lease the whole thing to somebody or potentially break it out into 3 units for RV or larger type storage. Building 18, there'll be 3 units on the south side. Building 19, 16 units. Building 24 units. So my first recommendation is to add the specificity of that to this table. Second, recommending that the sentence at the beginning be added to specify that climate control will be available in buildings 11, 66 units, and 12, 66 units. Again, that's kind of picking nits a bit, as the condition that we're looking to amend the general development plan for is specific to electrical power, not necessarily whether it's climate controlled or heated. I just think it's a good idea to put it in there as a reminder that that is what we approved, we knew it was going to be, and we're okay with it. The third part, I recommend that the developer's proposal for the plan approval to not include the sentence at the end, which says, if market demands exist, then the developer can add these features to buildings 13, 14, 15, and 16. I don't want to leave an open-ended hypothetical conversion of units in the approval. So I'm recommending striking that sentence. If the Plan Commission wanted to entertain accommodating the request for potential future conversions of buildings, then I would recommend that the conversions be subject to another final development plan amendment at a minimum, so that this body would get to take a look at how it impacted the site and the exterior, aesthetic of the building, should they do future conversions to buildings. So for now, my recommendation is to keep it to what's being asked for now, which are the buildings that we know about, 17, 18, 19, and 20, and specifically the units that I mentioned. But again, I'll put it to the Plan Commission if you want to consider changing the language to allow it subject to a final development plan amendment. So those are the things I wanted to talk about for the general development plan amendment portion of this. Again, we'll have more to talk about when we get to the final development plan portion.
Is that, I guess, the concerns about fire suppression, is that more appropriate here or under the final development plan?
I think when we get to the item for the final development plan.
Okay, all right. Paul, you have anything else you want to add?
Paul Van Hinkle, I'm representing Toronto Builders. Again, the request is to add possibility of electrical service and controlled environments in some of these units. Some of the bigger units, the RV units and boat storage units, we think we need. We're trying to build an upscale product here that's not available. You can drive all around the community and down I-43 and see a lot of these plain old storage units that, they got a roof and a door, but besides that, it's kind of like outdoor storage. So the way Toronto does things is they're looking for the upper end market. We think it's not offered in this area. We think there's a demand. They would like to build at least the units we talked about, but we'd like to wire up the other buildings so in the future we have the possibility to add those features in some of the other units if the market demands. Again, we're looking at starting to build some foundations next week. So it'd be helpful to know what the Plan Commission thought, and if you thought that's a good idea for all the buildings, we're going to add them in about 30 to 40% of the buildings now. But if the market grows, and that's the market, we'd like to be able to respond to that. And again, we could come back here and talk about it, but we got to wire these buildings up, at least to make it available when we start building these buildings. So that's the request, is that we are being able to add that to these other units at any time we feel the market demands it. So and that's something they're going to invest in now, hoping the market grows and at least we'll have it pre-wired. So that's the only, I guess, question we have right now on the table would be, and I think we're going to talk about that at the final development plan. Orin?
I mean, I would think that part of the discussion should be now. That's part of this.
Okay, well, we'll save that, but
We can talk about.
right
maybe
now, we're
the-
just adding
We can talk about some of the, some of the details to the site.
the
layout
general
and site
development plan
then.
we're adding,
Yeah.
we're asking for to be available to have electrical facilities for storage and heat. Thanks.
So, Orin, with the, striking that last sentence about the electrical, would it be okay to have them have the future ability to do it, but not connect it until we give the approval to connect it? So they can do all the pre-stuff, but they need our okay to actually connect.
Yeah, I would be comfortable with that, yeah. Yeah, there's no problem with doing that. We've had similar instances where I've had conversation with folks, they'll have something, you know, they're redoing a parking lot, they'll have conduit laid to potentially have future lighting of a certain type, but they haven't come in for a lighting plan yet because they haven't put in the pole, so it's a non-issue, and it's underground, it's not bothering anybody. And I think what Paul's getting at is it would save them money to be able to set it up now, but they'd also like the approval to go forward with it now. And again, my comfort level is more, at least having it be subject to an amendment, if not just waiting until they have a proposal.
Yeah, I think it would be a good idea to have them have the ability to go forward, but right now, I guess just see how the first bunch of buildings go.
Other thoughts, comments? Yeah, I think, Paul, you know, we've had this ordinance in place, I guess, out of concern of people, you know, occupying these storage units and some of the things we talked about last time. So I think let's just see how these two go, but I don't see any problem with you guys going ahead and wiring it up, as kind of Roger's suggesting.
Okay, I understand that. I understand your concern, and we're concerned with that too. So this, you got a picture of this. This is a little different. We're going to have cameras everywhere, lights everywhere. We're going to have either key fobs or cards on the two access gates, and we're going to have emergency access gates. So we don't anticipate that being a problem. So we'll know when people come in and out, and if anybody's staying there longer than they should. But I just don't want to have to come back every time we want to add a unit to the, to add some electrical service to a unit.
I mean, I guess, so to help me understand what, if there's a long-term desire to make, what is it, units 11 and 12, those are the front two street-facing properties, is that right?
Yeah, the four buildings in the middle, basically. There's a long-term desire to add it if it's.
Oh, I'm sorry. We approved 11 and 12 last time, right?
Yeah, they're going to be they're going to be climate controlled.
Okay.
Right?
So,
They're
but,
not, they're not going to have individual electric in each
Okay.
unit, but they're.
Well, especially in
but
the
they're climate
RV, the
controlled.
RV storage, they're gonna have the ability to plug in a battery and charge it before so when they get ready to use their RV. they'd
But
be
that's
able-
17, 18, 19, 20. The
Yes.
two, 11 and 12 are smaller and just climate-controlled self-storage.
Climate-controlled
Yeah.
self-storage.
Okay.
all right, so the units that are in question, could we pull up the map for a second?
Is it on the FDP, the final development plan?
No, I have them here too.
Okay. Apparently I don't have the right one open up, sorry.
It's page, what is it, 7?
I'm sorry, what page?
Page 7?
Of the packet?
No, of the updated file.
It should be in the packet as well.
There we go.
Sort of.
Yeah, we're getting there. Oh,
Looks like a drawing. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So Honey Creek Road, so frontage to to the right.
Honey Creek is on the north side, which would be the right on this
Yep.
drawing.
And so,
And then Executive Drive comes up, and it just fronts on the back part, it curves out, and there's actually another lot next to us on Honey Creek.
yep. Okay, so 11 and 12 were always intended to be climate controlled, correct?
Right.
So-
And
and
the
that-
front two and the back two.
As of this resubmittal,
And in
yeah.
the
They
back-
were originally approved as regular self-storage. As of the resubmittal in our last meeting, yes, those were always proposed to be climate controlled.
Okay, and so which ones are formally listed here as, like, if we approve this GDP, then it's approved for electrical? Which two are those?
It is technically 4 buildings, but it's the south end of 17 and 18. So again, 1 to 3 units on 17, 3 units on 18, 16 units on 19, and 4 units on 20. That's what the state-approved plans are for, and that's what's the proposals for. The general development plan proposal, though, is saying, as it's written currently, all of 17 and 18, and 19 and 20. And really, it's just the south ends where the RV storage is located on 17 and 18 that I'd like it to be limited to.
Just so I'm clear, or what we're changing, the general development plan is changing the ability to add climate control and electrical services besides lights. That's the problem with the ordinance, correct? The ordinance restricts that, and we're asking for that under general development plan, we can do that. The final plan, or specific plan, I don't know what we call it now, final development plan, we're going to request on those buildings that you just mentioned for right now, and we'd like to have the ability to come back and at least do that on the other buildings based on the market. And I guess you'd want us to come back to the planning commission for those. We'd be happy to. We'd prefer not to, but I can understand your concern with some of those buildings.
Yep.
Yep, okay.
So I guess, Paul, here's my confusion. If the long-term plan is electrification of all of this, why not just submit to that? Like, why did we submit partial? That's where I'm confused as to why. Because we talk about wanting to get to some case or some goal.
That would be fine. The long-term plan is to meet the market demand. So right now, they're going to provide those facilities for some of these units before they know if they have any customers. So, and we'd like to be able to provide that for maybe all the units, maybe not, but all the units if there's the demand, because again, we'll be charging more for those units because of the upgrade in the unit. So, yes, we'd like to do that, but we want to be able to make those decisions based on the market, and I think what my understanding from the general plan that we could do that now. If we come back to this final plan, either we're going to have to say these are the units we're going to do now, and have to come back, or you're going to say those are the units you're going to do now, and if the market demands, you can go ahead and do that, and we don't need to come back. That's the only question I think we're looking at here.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to, and I don't think the Plan Commission, don't mean to speak for the other commissioners here, but I'm not sure we care what the market is or isn't going to do. Like, that's not really our role. So either the market's going to support it or not, and you're going to have wiring there anyway. I mean, to what we just talked about. So if we have wiring there anyway, you're going to have some sort of control mechanism that says that I can or can't use the outlet in my unit. It's either on, or it's either hot or it's not.
Right, well, it's going to have a meter.
Okay, so
It's going to have a meter, so
then,
you won't be able to use it without having a meter, so.
I think what we're talking about is that they're not going to have meters installed on the 4 buildings in the middle currently.
Correct.
You're going to leave wiring in the ground up to those buildings is what they're proposing, and they may want to come back and add that in the future. My issue with that is currently those are just regular cold self-storage units, and they're not for the RV, they're not the higher end product that we're talking about for these other buildings and these other units. And so if those are just going to be converted to cold storage that now also has electrical, do we have concerns with that or not? Again, it's a hypothetical scenario that I say cross the bridge when we get there, because we aren't there yet. We don't even know if they're going to do it.
The one thing we don't want to do is, we're willing to invest in some of the infrastructure to provide this at a later date, because we don't want to come back and rip up parking and things like that, and rip up buildings and do all that other stuff. So we may like to run the conduit and some of the wiring into those buildings, but if there's not a demand, we're not going to offer that. If the demand is for non-climate control units and things like that, we're not going to add those units and charge them more. But if the market changes, so like I said, we're going to do some of these up front and see what the market is. If we got to come back and talk to you later on for these other units, I guess we could do that, but we'd like to have the ability now. But that's something we're looking for your comfort level on that. So.
How do we make that process for them to come back as painless as possible? Because they're not going to have a meter there, as you said. So if they come back and go, oh, we want to add 6 meters. We want to convert these. What does that application process look like for them?
If it was the final development plan process, then it's a site plan review at the Plan Commission, essentially, and there's no public hearing requirement. If we don't leave an opening for that, then it would be another general development plan amendment subject to another public hearing.
Now, if you appreciate a position, if you say, oh, no, we'll never want that, well, we may change our infrastructure construction as when we're starting these buildings here in a couple of weeks. We may say, okay, but if the Plan Commission says, yeah, we don't have a problem with that, we'd like to look at it again and think if we like these first ones, we're going to approve the next ones. Well, then we make a different decision. So I can understand some people hesitant. I hear you. That's, well, if there's a bunch of problems out there, you may not want it. But if you thought there was no problems and then later on we could justify doing this, we'd like to, invest in some of the infrastructure now. That's the position we're at.
I have a question, Paul. If there were to be conversions in those 4 buildings in the middle at a future date, would there be an impact to the site and or the exterior of those buildings?
No,
So the sizes of the units would stay the same?
Everything
and-
stay the same.
And there wouldn't need to be any different
no difference, because we're going to,
access to them, like the changes for 11 and 12?
no changes. Basically, what you're looking at, adding a meter in some climate control facilities like a space heater type, or some kind of heater in there if they want to climate control, or some kind of electrical outlet. But right now, those won't have any outlets, but we'd like to have the ability then to come back and do that at a later date. And if you said, oh, no way, we just want this, so many 20 or 30 units now, we'll never want those in the future, well, okay, then I guess we're going to live with that. But if you'd say, hey, if you can demonstrate, and this is, again, we're trying to provide a product that nobody else has around here. So, if you look at all the nice self-storage, you got to go a long ways, but the only thing they have in their sign says climate control. That's the big difference between a upper end unit and a normal self-storage unit. So that's what we're asking for. So,
What requirements would there be for the building inspector? They build it to what we're talking about. Not all the units have it. They come back, let's say, a year later. There's huge demand. We want to add more of these. Is there some requirement for the building inspector to inspect that or have that wiring validated?
Yeah, there would have to be an electrical permit, for sure, and potentially building permit if there were any other changes.
And the category would still have to be usage as some sort of storage unit. It's not like, oh, well, we're going to turn one of these into an office. Right? Somebody could work out of it.
Yeah, the overarching general development plan from the first approval says that this is limited to a self-storage facility with no outdoor storage. So that's the type of use that's being approved. And if you look at the specific standards for self-storage facilities, now we're amending those to allow the electrical to certain units.
These are self-storage. If you want an apartment or an office building, we'll put you someplace else right away. So-
I'm sure you have the phone number for that.
I'd say it's not the same as what they're asking for now because they're designing the units of the buildings that we're looking at approving that we've previously talked about, 17, the south end of 17, 18, all of 19 and 20. Those are being built to be climate controlled and have the larger space for the boats or the RVs or just larger storage space. That's what was originally proposed for the electrical service. So now what's being proposed is potentially converting regular cold self-storage to have electrical. And the question I'm posing is the Plan Commission still comfortable with that? Because it's not the same. And I don't know how you convert those to be climate controlled if the building isn't designed for that as it's being proposed right now at the state-approved plan level. There's no insulation.
There are firewalls, there's firewalls in all these buildings. That's, you could add it, you could add it pretty easily. So, again, if you're uncomfortable with this, tell us now. We won't provide that option here and save us some money. But we think long-term that you never know. Who knew? Torontomies, we've been doing, it was back in the late 90s, it was their first product in the village here, and I don't think we've ever misled you on anything or do anything. So we're not trying to sneak something past anybody or anything like that. We're just looking for the opportunity to say, okay, we're going to do these first several units with climate control, and if we think that we came back, even if we had to come back to the Planning Commission, if you said, well, yeah, if you come back and everything's going good, we'd like to see that expansion, that we'd probably take the risk. If you could jump up and say, that's enough, we don't want any more, we don't want any risk and things like that, we don't want that in the village, then we'd probably make it different decisions when we build these units. So,
Warren, in your recommendation, are we prohibiting them from putting in the infrastructure for buildings 13, 14, 15, and 16? Can they do the underground conduit? Can they put within your current recommendation? And then they just have to come back and say, hey, the demand existed. We want to put in electrical in 13, 14, 15, and 16, or two of those buildings, or all four, whatever. We have the infrastructure. All we got to do is just run some conduit and put up an electrical panel.
Yeah, and I would say if that's the route the Plan Commission wants to go, we would want to add into their, again, at the end of what they currently have, subject to final development plan. That's the site plan review and approval. And at that time, we would find out, how many more and
Yes.
what specifically are you looking to do to them
Yes.
to make them climate controlled and or to provide the electrical
Yes.
service? And then if there's zero changes to the site, or if there's minor changes to the building exterior, we
Right.
look at that at that time.
there won't be any changes. But from our standpoint, and you don't even have to vote on it, you just tell me, and I would relay it to them. It says, what do you really think? I mean, are we wasting our time and money, and then come back and say, oh, we don't care what you did? We'd go ahead and make those investments, but we'd want to have some good faith that's saying, hey, yeah, if it's all working out, we'd probably like to see that, or no way, and then that's kind of where, and I don't want to put you on the spot, and we're not asking to vote on those things tonight, but we'd like to at least get your thoughts on it.
So here's what I'd like to propose, Orrin, you tell me if this would work, is we approve with the language that you can go ahead and wire this up. And from a plan commission, let's say you want to expand this service. I'm not sure that I want that to come back to the plan commission, but when you pull the building permit and electrical permit, the building inspector is only allowed to issue permits for what's on here right now. If you then come back later and you go, oh, I want to add 10 units with this, then that's a separate building permit, that's a separate electrical permit.
Yeah, if that's what you want to do, that'd be great, but I don't want to be a pest either, coming back all the time here with you guys.
But that's between you and the building inspector. That's not
All right,
coming
that's
back to
fine.
this board.
That'd be perfect with us.
I would say then you can just leave the language as is, because that has to happen regardless.
Not that I don't like coming here, but on a Packer night, I probably have better things to do. All right, that'd be perfect. We'd agree, we'd love to see that.
Thoughts from the commission on that as an idea?
I'm in alignment.
Anybody have any heartburn about, in the future, they offer more units that are cold now, and now they're climate controlled and have an electrical outlet? Okay. Any other comments from the public on this? We're in a public hearing. Any other comments? Third time. Okay, I will close the public hearing and we'll move on to discussion and recommendation to the village board. So I guess if it's my idea, I gotta make the motion, right? So I move that the Plan Commission recommends to the village board approval of the proposed ordinance as drafted, amending the Honey Creek Plan Development District for property located at Honey Creek Road, west of Executive Drive, RA 491500002, subject to one, two, 4, and 5. Is that right, Orrin? It's just number 3 that we're skipping?
Correct.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Questions or discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. On to item 2, conditional use application for a group daycare center, 9+ children, for property located at 2541 Main Street, bearing tax parcel number RA 139600001. Veronica Clark, Kids Count 2, Learning Center LLC. Applicant Ray Gooden, agent. Application 2025-25. And we have in your email, we also received an updated report here from staff. So I will open the public hearing. Orrin, can you walk us through that? And then we've got Ray here.
Yes, I can. So this is currently a vacant tenant space. It was a daycare previously. So this is the Eastbrook Plaza at 2541 Main Street. The current applicant, Veronica Clark, would like to open a new daycare, Kids Count 2 Early Learning Center. Based on the Highway Business District zoning for this property, that specific use, a group daycare center, 9+ children, is a conditional use per section 510-29B of the code. There are specific standards for that type of use that need to be met. And of those, generally, they are all being met. Group daycare centers shall not be located within a residential building. This is a commercial building. They're supposed to have a buffer yard if they abut residentially zoned property. This parcel does not. The property owner needs to sign off on the application. They have, the property owner being Citizens Bank out of McGuanago. Minimum required parking, 1 space per 5 students, plus 1 space for each employee on the largest work shift. We can talk some more about the parking when we talk about the site plan portion. The packet includes a draft conditional use order for this proposed development. And as part of that, there is a couple recommended conditions that I borrowed from one of the previous tenants that went into the building. There was in 2021, a proposal for an indoor entertainment use for a golf simulator business / tavern. And at the time, their conditional use included a couple of conditions, one about occupancy of the tenant space and another about parking. And so I rolled those into this conditional use order as well, because I think they would both apply to this specific use as well. So essentially, the occupancy of the building has to meet the local and/or state code requirements for fire and whatever the licensing is for the use, which it would have to anyways. And the parking basically states that they have to work with what they have out there and not create an issue with parking, essentially. And we can talk more about that with the staff review that you all received today regarding the site plan. So again, the main difference between the existing or the previous use of the daycare, Bright Beginnings was the name of the previous daycare. That was limited to 60 children, and the proposal now is for 99 children. So that's the main difference. Otherwise, this proposal actually has a narrower age range than what was previously approved. I think it went up to 10 years previously. Veronica Clark, the current applicant, is requesting only up to 6 years old, I think. So we got a smaller age range, but more kids.
Because they're younger and smaller? You stack them up in there?
Well, I mean, the previous was 60 units, was it, did she just ask for 60 kids, or was that the village?
We don't know. We don't know.
Right, yes.
My guess would be that that's probably what was asked for at the time, but I couldn't say for sure.
All right. Questions or comments from the commission?
So I guess another difference, and I don't know if this means anything or not, but the golf place wasn't there before. So I don't know if serving alcohol right next to a daycare is a issue with state or local or ordinances or whatever.
Not based on the zoning. No, we don't have any specific zoning requirements that would require a separation in that regard. I can't speak to the state license, but I have been told by the agent of the applicant that they have received their state license approval.
She can't until this is approved.
Oh, okay.
I believe the state statute only restricts the vicinity with schools, not childcare centers. We will confirm that, but that's what my recollection is. I did a quick search, that's what came up, but I'm only so trusting of these quick searches.
All right, any other questions, comments, questions for the applicant? Ray, anything else you want to add? All right, any comments from the public? Going once, going twice, 3 times. All right, I'll close the public hearing. We'll move on to discussion and recommendation to the village board.
I'll make a motion to approve the site plan of operations request for Veronica Clark, Kids Count 2 Early Learning Center LLC for the property located at 2541 Main Street, subject to the following conditions, 1 through 17.
I'll second.
Questions or discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Item 1 under miscellaneous business, 2-lot certified survey map for property located at approximately 2085 County Road L, East Troy, Wisconsin, 53120, RXUP 00221A. Ken Osborne, Haas Commercial Real Estate. Applicant, John, I'm sorry, John, I may butcher your name here, Kanapaki, Chaput Land Surveyors Agent, application 2025-24. So this is discussion and recommendation to the village board. Oren, you want to walk us through this?
Yeah, this is a proposed 2-lot certified survey map. We have 2 properties with the same tax parcel, essentially, and they're trying to create 2 separate, saleable lots out of what exists there currently. Likely, the road came through and split this parcel, is probably what happened. And it's just been that way since. It's currently farmed, and so hasn't been an issue up till this point. And as it gets proposed to be developed at some point, you have to iron these kind of things out. So this is more of a housekeeping thing than anything else. So as far as the staff review, the properties have the appropriate zoning for what they're planned for, can meet the village's requirements based on the zoning. There were some technical requirements from the village engineer, and those are included in the packet. Most of those have been addressed. I think there's 2 things that the petitioner and the engineer and I will discuss regarding those technical comments. But the main thing that I would just point out from my staff review, I noted that there was some best available data that was used for a wetland that's on the subject parcel. They just used the data that was available through GIS from the county. And at some point, we will want a field delineation should there be a development actually proposed for that site. If you can see on there that on Lot 1 on the south end of that, there's or on the bottom end of your page, rather, there's a wetland. And so should there be a development proposal for that site, we'd want to have that field delineated so we know whether it's being proposed to be impacted or not. Otherwise, we have our pretty standard conditions, one of those being just that all the comments from the village engineer get addressed. And our petitioner, Ken Osborne, is here in the audience if there's any questions.
Is there anything around right-of-ways that we need to factor into this?
Yes, access is restricted, and that's noted on the CSM where those restrictions are. It does leave areas for access on County Trunk Highway L for both of the proposed parcels, but neither of the parcels will have access to State Trunk Highway 20 or I-43 directly. And there are specific setbacks that are associated with being in the proximity to these arterial streets. There's kind of a sliding scale. That's, I think, one of the questions that Ken had, or one of your folks had, was regarding, if you're in a certain vicinity of I-43, then a certain setback applies. But we don't know what's going to be going there yet. We don't know necessarily if that would apply, is one of the questions. So, yes, this unique location brings some limitations, but they are addressing that.
Anything you want to add?
No, I don't think so.
Pretty straightforward.
Still a very early stage.
Questions or comments from the commission? Can't make me make all the motions tonight.
I'll make a motion to recommend to the village board approval of the certified survey map for Ken Osborne for the property located at 2085 County Road L, East Troy, Wisconsin, 53120, RXUP 00221A, subject to the following conditions, 1, 2, and 3.
I'll second.
All right, questions or discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Ken, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Good luck on the development. Item 2, amend the final development plan for Honey Creek Plan Development District for property located on Honey Creek Road west of South Executive Drive to have a permanent entryway at Honey Creek Road, climate-controlled buildings, increased impervious surface, revised site plan, and revised landscape plan. Toronto Builders applicant, Ryan Cardinal, agent, application 2025-18. So this is the final plan of what we were just talking about. So Orrin, help us understand the difference between this and what we just talked about.
Sure. So we talked about the general development plan. Those are the overarching rules for this specific plan development district. So again, it follows the base zoning of the light industrial unless we changed anything else. And those were the things that we talked about. The original approval allowed a few alterations, if you will, from the light industrial zoning and for specific standards as they apply to the final development plan. The final development plan is the site plan. It's the actual details. So it's the site plan itself, the landscape plan, the lighting plan, the exterior architecture of the buildings. Those are all the things that we're talking about right now. So I'll start by just reminding everybody that this was previously approved, and the developer went on. It was approved at the same time as the lofts of Honey Creek, which is the next door multifamily development. The developer went on to build that and hasn't yet gotten to building this. And we approved a general development plan amendment at our last meeting, recommended it, and the board approved it for the height. So the allowable height changed from 20 feet to 30 feet to accommodate the buildings as presented previously. But as we talked about, some of those, the way the building height gets measured are maybe around 24 feet. And so now they'll fit in with this. We just already recommended approval of another general development plan amendment regarding the electrical service. That was something else we talked about last time. The other item that we needed to look into based on this being postponed at the last meeting was the fire department requirements. So, access and access to fire hydrants. Would they be putting in fire hydrants on this site or not? One of the representatives of the project, Tony, I think, who was here last time, Tony Larson, met with the fire department staff and talked about putting in gates so that the fire department could access the existing hydrants that are located off-site but nearby. So there's 2 nearby on the lofts at Honey Creek on the west side. And what they're proposing are 4-foot by 4-foot gates that the fire department would be able to access via Knox box or a key card. Paul?
Yep.
And then one on the east side to access a fire hydrant that's on the east side of South Executive Drive.
Executive Drive. And again, on top of that, there's 3 fire hydrants pretty close to the 3 gates we'll have available too. So
Right.
there's 3 hydrants that will be accessed right from the gates, and there's another 3 that are in between the gates, and so we're going to put a 4x4 opening to access those hydrants with hoses if the fire department needs to. So, and it'll be controlled by a gate that's only accessed by the fire department. So Tony Larson and the fire chief, I think the fire chief or somebody met to discuss those, and I think they've agreed on some kind of size and location.
So
Can
one
we
of
show the location on the site plan now?
Yep, the location shown on the site plan, which is in your packet. And one of the questions I did have, though, Paul, there's a retaining wall to this would be for the two that are towards the Honey Creek, the lofts at Honey Creek. There's those garages on the east side of that development, and there's retaining walls. My question, I guess, is maybe more to the fire chief. Is that 4-foot grade difference an issue for getting access to those fire hydrants? You know, to get.
The grade coming down won't be an issue. It's more if we're going uphill, we're actually going to get more residual coming down the hill on that, but
Okay.
I was okay with that.
Okay, great.
Hey, before you walk off, Chief. So what, I mean, based on kind of, there was a lot of discussion and concern in our last meeting, so how did your conversation with the applicant shake out?
It went well. You know, he stopped in the next day and came and spoke with me because originally I was proposing to him that we have hydrants at both the north and south entrance into the property there on the inside of the gates, just because we're not throwing LDH hose over 6-foot gates. And he came back with this proposal, and I felt it was fair and actually gives us a few more hydrants to be able to access.
So I guess that was my question too, because last meeting, it was proposed to like add another fire hydrant, but you're okay with what this is now?
Yes.
Any concerns about fire suppression within the property outside of the hydrants?
No, we should be able to access everything we need to access with this current layout.
You wouldn't expect, though, like an active sprinkler system or anything like that?
Not in a non-dwelling living environment, and especially with storage like that, it's kind of hard. So,
All right, thank you.
So those were the two main things that we postponed this for. That was our homework, was to address those. I've tried to lay out as clearly as I could what all is being proposed and how that might be different from what was previously approved. And so those are the, just going through the bullet points of, the proposed site plan includes. I'll just go through them. So as a reminder, the driveway entrance on Honey Creek is proposed to be permanent. Previously, that was shown as being temporary, and that after maybe as like a construction access, but then after the development was up and running, that would go away. So they're proposing to have the driveway on the north end to Honey Creek Road be permanent. Additional pavement was added around the buildings to support access to climate-controlled and oversized units, specifically around 11 and 12, but in some other areas as well. The architectural elevations changed to incorporate new materials and colors. We've got a color palette example here that we can pass around if needed, and then an example of the cultured stone that's being proposed on certain portions of the buildings. There'll be a large amount of cultured stone on the front of the buildings 11 and 12, which would, again, face towards the main road there as you're going by. And so I think that'll look very nice. Again, the elevations are included, the architectural renderings, if you will, and architectural elevations are both in the packets. As far as the color palette of the buildings, the color of the roofs and the material of the roofs is being proposed to be changed. The previous approval was for asphalt shingles. The proposal now is for a standing seam metal roof that is copper in color. And the color of the siding of the buildings is being proposed to be changed. It's now going to be like a charcoal color with black trim, is my understanding. Is that correct, Paul? Yep. So again, if you see the architectural renderings in your packets, that shows, again, the new proposed layout. Originally, I think the idea was to have signage in the upper areas, the cupola areas, if you will, of these two front buildings. And then I pointed out that under the signage portion of this, that the previous planner's comments were that the original artwork for that signage, if you will, looked too much like a federal highway sign, and so that it would have to be changed to, because there's a requirement in the sign code that says you can't have your sign look like some type of road sign. Some of the other things, again, the building height, so, which we've addressed through the general development plan. The overall unit count is increasing from 340 to 396. It's an increase of 56 units, and that mostly has to do with buildings 11 and 12 being climate controlled now and having a different layout than originally approved. Buildings 11 and 12 were redesigned to be climate controlled with 66 units each. Building envelopes, again, were adjusted to have the interior hallways accessing temperature-controlled units. Buildings 13, 14, 15, and 16 were reconfigured from 40 units to 44 units. Building 17 reconfigured from 40 units to 33 to 35 units. Again, there's a range there because the south end of Building 17 could either be one big unit or potentially separated into 3 different units. And they won't know until they know if somebody's interested in taking the whole thing or not. And again, those 1 to 3 units on the south end are being proposed to be climate controlled and have the electrical service now. Building 18 reconfigured from 40 units to 35 units with 3 larger units added on the south end for RVs and oversized storage with electrical power service provided to each unit. Building 19, 16 units of climate-controlled RV storage with electrical power service provided to each unit. Building 20, which has 4 units, climate-controlled RV storage with electrical power service. There's going to be 24 off-street parking stalls with 2 ADA accessible stalls, a 6-foot black vinyl-coated chain-link security fence around the perimeter of the development that was previously approved. 3 automatic security gates with remote access and Knox box access. Is that correct, Paul? That the security gates will have Knox box access for the fire department?
Yes, the access between the loss and the self-storage is emergency.
Okay. So that would be the interior cross-access, if you will. So that'll only be for emergency, and you mentioned snow clearing.
Correct.
So for the
It
out.
won't be for general public.
Right, I noted the snow clearing under the outdoor storage, so there's no outdoor storage approved, but Paul had said that they may want to move vehicles off of the Honey Creek Lofts property and specifically for snow removal when they need it, but that would be temporary only. And we've got the 3 gates, 3 4x4 gates near existing fire hydrants that we discussed, that the fire chief is on board with, camera monitoring, the existing sanitary and municipal water service connections, and then there'll be an office in Building 19 with accessible restrooms, which is on the south end of the development. So, again, the Plan Commission should decide if you're okay with the architecture as proposed, if you feel that's appropriate. I think previously there was red color incorporated in the siding, which is, I happen to personally like how it looks and how it's proposed. You can see on I-43, just north of Slinger, there's a development that has this copper-style roof. It does look good in a self-storage setting. I can attest to that. As far as the landscaping, the petitioner is requesting a waiver from the buffer yard requirements. In the packet, they included an image of the existing garages So there's an exception in the buffer yard requirements that, the Plan Commission approved adding a few years back, that if there's a change in elevation between properties, that there may not be a need for a buffer yard. In this case, the Honey Creek development is up higher than this portion of their development. And you do have the garages right there. Go down, Eileen. Yep, that picture. So this picture is looking west from South Executive Drive, and you can see the rows of the garages, which do provide a pretty good buffer as they sit today. There are some gaps in between them, but the gaps in between them are not very big, and that's where those retaining walls are, and I think there's
Where the hydrants are too.
the hydrants as well. So it's in your purview to approve a waiver to that, and I incorporated it as one of the conditions of approval. It would be condition 1, which states, "The Village of East Troy Plan Commission approves the requested waiver for a buffer yard along the western border abutting residentially zoned property per section 510-119E of the Village Zoning Code, as the Plan Commission believes the required buffer yard will not provide the desired screening because the adjoining properties are at significantly different elevations, and the existing tenant garages along the eastern property line of the loss of Honey Creek multifamily development provide sufficient screening." So if you agree with that, you can keep that in there, and that would be baked into your approval. As far as the fencing, I am recommending that the developer install an ornamental metal fence along the east and north lot lines. I think this property has a lot of visibility, and when this was originally proposed, none of the business park had been developed yet, and South Executive Drive hadn't been installed yet. So when this was proposed, maybe everybody was fine with this being a cyclone, chain link style fence. Black and vinyl coated is nicer than a regular, just silvery cyclone fence, but I think an ornamental fence like what I pictured here, I think what's pictured is probably an aluminum fence, but, either aluminum or steel is what I'm proposing, something that has a more decorative or ornamental look to it. So, again, if you do not agree with that, feel free to strike my condition pertaining to that, which would be condition 4 in both staff review. I don't have a final lighting plan yet. The developer did provide the previous lighting plan that was approved. That's in your packets for review, but because some of the buildings are changing and the heights on certain portions of the buildings are changing, the lighting will likely change, and if the lighting's at a different height, then the levels will be different, and they may choose a different fixture altogether. So the photometric plan that you have will likely change. The developer has agreed to do all full cutoff lighting, which is great. That's what we want. There is a likelihood of having lighting on parts of buildings that wasn't originally approved. So, as an example, they're proposing to have man door access on the east side of Building 19, which fronts South Executive Drive. So there will likely be a proposal for lights over those doors, and we want to make sure that there isn't a lot of glare or light spillage coming off of that portion of those buildings. Yes, it's a commercial business on the other side of that, not the residences, but still, we've got standards for lighting at property lines, and we want to make sure that those are being met. And so I've got a condition here for the final lighting plan being subject to review and approval by the zoning administrator prior to issuance of a building permit. So that would not prevent them from getting their early start for footings and foundations, but I think it's in the works, and they intend to get it to me as soon as they can. So it's something that they're already working on. And that would include a cut sheet for what type of fixtures that they're going to have to make sure, again, that just to confirm that they're going to be full cutoff, which they've already committed to. I already kind of mentioned the signage. They'll need signage approval. I included an image of what was previously approved, and then just noted that the previous planner did have an issue with that because of it looking like a highway sign, and so that'll have to change. But they had originally planned to have signage along both arterials, if you will, near both entrances. So the last comment is condition number 3, which states that the sidewalk on the south side of Building 20 needs to meet the 5-foot pavement setback. And I think they've updated that on at least one of their plans, but maybe not all of their plan sets yet. So those are the comments that I have. I went through all of the changes with you. If there's any other questions, let me know, and Paul's here to answer.
Paul,
anything else.
any concerns with the comments?
Just a couple, and they're minor. I just wanted to show you the old red that we had there. It's kind of, we think we got a better color mix now, so just, same with the sign. I know we got to do something different than the sign up there, but, you know, you don't see much masonry on self-storage anywhere, so we think that's nice. The fence was, cyclone, you know, it's more of a security issue, more of a comfort level for people who rent them. We just felt this, first of all, they ordered it because it was approved, the cyclone fence with the black vinyl coating, so we like that fence, and we'd like to keep that fence. The lighting plan, we modified lighting plans. We also modified it to meet the new village ordinance, because the village ordinance changed from the first one. So it's just done. I saw it today. I'll get that over. But it's pretty detailed. I mean, I'm not much of a lighting guy either. I kind of saw it, but I don't know if I could interpret it. But we're comfortable with Orin looking at that. I don't know if the planning commission wants to look at the detail in the lighting plan, but if you look at the south side, can you site plan again? You got the site plan? If you look at the south side, the south property line, although that sidewalk is pretty close, it's, and what we did there is, can you slide it over just a little bit? Building 20. Okay, the building 20 in the back. If you picture that, there's 4 units in there, and the 2 center units, they're pretty deep. So the thought was if you're storing a boat or you're storing a RV, you could get into those units without pulling that stuff out. So we got 2 doors on the sides for the east and the west buildings, and then we got 2 in the back, and we just wanted to give them a sidewalk to the back. And then the property to the south of there, there's a big berm. So we want to provide a little lighting for somebody's going to walk around in that sidewalk. So that's why we added lighting there. So we thought it was more of a security and a safety issue than it was worrying about hitting light on that earthen buffered on the south of the property line. So, like I said, we like our fence.
As shown there, Paul, it's meeting the requirement. This is the one that was updated to meet the 5-foot setback?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, but
So you guys are good with that?
Yes.
Okay.
We just, you know, we originally was worried about the fire truck turning around there, but we don't have an issue in the center. But the lighting issue, we still want some lighting in those back 2 doors in the middle. There's 2 doors in the middle. The 2 outside ones have doors on the sides, so they're not close to the property line.
Okay.
So I think that was the only thing. And again, the fence, we like the black chain link fence. We think from the standpoint, if you're renting a unit there, you prefer chain link than somebody skinny like my wife could slip through between those bars on that.
So with the fence, is there a height difference between the decorational one and the chain link one?
No, I'd be proposing 6 feet as well.
So on the lighting, 2 things. One is, you already touched on this, Orin. We have in a neighboring community a storage unit business, and when you drive by, you know, especially at this time of year, it's like, you know, somebody's coming at me with high beams. So, you know, from the left, like I'm going to be T-boned or something. So, yes, I don't want to drive down Executive Drive or Honey Creek Road and feel like that, that I'm at the airport.
That is not a full cutoff light.
Yes.
So if you see a full cutoff wall pack on a building, you should see a beam coming down like a tent,
Yep.
and that's it. And you see it lighting up the side of the building, it's not coming at you.
Right.
That's what we want.
And then just, obviously, they're your your tenants, but making sure we keep into account those apartments that are going to be overlooking this, that they're not getting a lot of glare into their windows.
Yeah, some of the lighting you see is, a lot of times they use lighting for advertisement for your product, so we don't want to do that. We want to have enough lighting there so the cameras operate properly, and people are, from the safety issue when they get it out, especially at night, especially in the winter at 5 o'clock at night, So we don't have a problem. We're going to meet the new ordinance, your new ordinance and stuff, so it's done, and we've had, but again, I didn't do it. I'm not a lighting guy. But we don't have any problem meeting the new lighting ordinance, which is different than the original approval.
And then if you can go down to the next page. So this is your landscape plan here? Nope, that's right, next one. There you go.
Yes.
Okay.
And I did a tour of Executive Drive, and I think we get a lot more landscaping than anybody else out there, too. So if you drive down there, take a look. So again, we want enough landscaping there to be attractive, and we switched from, we could do some things in the right-of-way there on the south side, but when we get to the north side, we got a property, we got to move it inside the fence line. So, we don't want to get it too high where you don't have security, where the policemen and thing can drive by there and see through there. So we want to be able to, so I think Orrin and the landscape architects have gone through a couple of iterations on this, so I think you're comfortable with it, correct?
I am, yeah. I had asked for just some species diversity and for a couple different types of planting. I think previously it was mainly shade trees.
Yeah.
So things that would get like a street tree. And it's now peppered in with some evergreens and some shrubs and grasses and some things, so I like where it got to.
My personal opinion, I think Orrin's right on the fence. I'm not a fan of chain link fence, even vinyl coated. I'm not sure you're really getting any more security out of it. And I think the fact that we've got development there, I think we would enforce similar requirements elsewhere.
Well, the original chain link fence was approved, that's why I think it's ordered, so.
I would just state that because we've opened this up for changes, Plan Commission can require a different type of fence if you want to, even if it's not being proposed. There are lots of changes from what was originally approved that the developer is asking for. So because we're looking at all of these other things, you can look at that as well. It's in your purview.
I myself look at this, in the renderings you have, and the place looks tremendous. It looks beautiful place. And I think I would have an issue with the chain link fence if it was like a metal galvanized thing going around. That would look kind of out of place. But you said it's going to be a black fence. I think I'm okay with the black fence because it's just going to blend in anyways, and you're really not going to see it too much.
Will the landscaping cover most of that fencing anyway?
Yes. I believe so. I mean, I don't know, not the landscape guy, but.
Is the fencing just going around this area or around the whole property?
Goes mostly on Executive Drive. Then if you look at that, I think it's another lot number, that triangle piece there. There's another lot there, so that'll be to the neighbor whenever that gets sold. And then on the west side, we run the fence between the garages because there was no way to maintain that when you put the back of the garage as the fence. So I think that's on the plan now. So we just run the fence there. And it'll be on the front side between the gates and the south side. So.
And with the fire chief here, the landscaping with the trees and the bushes and all that stuff, that's not going to affect you at all? You're not going to have to cut them all down?
We'll make sure those openings don't have landscaping in front of them too.
I can't see a black chain link fence. I know there's one now, new one that got put in, and it just does not look good. And I don't think that would be the good thing to have for you guys.
I agree.
Warren, you're only requesting it on two sides of the property, right?
Correct, the two sides that face the right-of-ways. So the east side, which faces South Executive Drive, and then the north side, which faces Honey Creek Road. And I think it'd be fine for the other two portions. The west side towards the garages, again, the garages are providing most of that buffer. And then the south end, you have another industrial property to the south of this.
So in this proposal, you are recommending that they have the more fancier fence on two sides, and then they can use that black chain link fence that they had ordered on the other two sides?
Yep.
Okay.
And if you, I would just point out that the fence does appear on, as proposed, on one of the renderings. Eileen, if you could bring up this one. There you go. And the fence is called out on the site plan as well. It's shown with X's.
That's a chain link there, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah, that's what's proposed, right? So they're not conveying the color of it, but it might not have shown up otherwise on their rendering if they had shown it as black, so.
Yeah.
But it is being proposed to be black. But yeah, that's essentially a visual for you of the chain link within the context of the development.
But having a chain link versus a fancy fence, that's not an ordinance thing, that's just a decorative thing, correct?
Yep, for me, it gets to the character of the area. I think the character of the area is different now than when this was originally approved, which is why I'm making the recommendation for the ornamental versus the chain link fence.
So I guess my point, if it's not going against any ordinances, and they ordered this, and they want this, it's their property, I don't think it's going to affect anybody in the community if it's a chain link versus a fancy fence.
I'm just trying to remember, I think I got a picture of what you have around your retention pond out there. I can't remember what kind of fencing you have around that, so I thought I took a picture of that.
I'm not aware of any fencing around the detention pond. We don't normally do that.
I would say that the two developments further south have chain link fencing for their outdoor storage areas, but those are at the end of the cul-de-sac. Those two businesses and their outdoor storage areas, and I believe they also have the mesh screening attached with grommets to those to enhance the screening value of those.
Yeah, I haven't seen
chain link
that,
fences.
and not that I don't like your fence, Orrin, I've never seen that anywhere else in the community, so.
I'll tell you, I chose the picture that I did because that's used in a lot of other business park settings that I do have experience with. Places used to see language in design standards for business parks that would say ornamental fencing, and they would maybe give an example of wrought iron. I think people don't use that as much as the material as they do a steel or aluminum fence. But again, some of the fences that need to be security fences can go up, to 8 feet, and maybe they'll curve back. You'll see that, but it's still that type that I'm showing, where it's a aluminum style with the tighter, not so much space between the openings, so it can still be a security style fence.
Setting aside the fence for just a minute before I forget, Paul, the change to the copper color, is there a chance, or I don't know if the development, or you were talking about near Slinger, for it to oxidize and develop a patina, or will it remain this copper color?
It's still a steel roof. It's not actually made of copper, so no. It'll maintain its color. Paul, would you concur?
Pardon me?
That the question was, would the copper roof patina or change, green like an actual copper roof?
No, that's colored. That's colored. That's not copper. That's
So this is still a
that's
steel
steel
roof?
Steel with
so
a copper color.
Won't change, okay.
Yeah. Ooh, copper roof. Ooh. That's scary.
Fancy storage units.
That is scary there.
You said high-end, so, just making sure.
Yeah. Copper roof and a I don't know. I've never seen a storage facility with that much masonry in it either, so.
Can I ask you a question that doesn't really matter about anything? I see one of these buildings has like stone going all the way to the top, and the other one doesn't. Is there a purpose for that?
Feature they kind of put some dimension to the whole project, Again, they're not trying, they own the property next door and they got a lot invested in that, so they want to make sure this looks nice. So there's no storage in those.
No, I was just wondering why they don't look the same.
On the other end.
You got one stone going all the way up and one,
Oh,
Doesn't have
I thought
that.
they're both, I think they're both stone all the way up, tell you the
are
truth.
they? Okay. That would make more, that'd
I
make
think
more
that's the
sense.
rendering guy, not us.
Let's look at the architectural plans. See what those call for.
I tell you the truth, I never noticed that, so I just assumed they were. I thought there's,
I think the architectural plans basically state that they're a mirror image. They just show one building,
Yeah,
but it says that the other would essentially be a mirror image.
I'm going to say they're going to put it all the way up. If they don't, I'll come back.
Yeah, it says on the exterior elevations for building 11 and 12, it says building 12, building 12 shown with building 11 to be built as mirror image. So it's showing the stone going all the way up to the top with the intent that 11 would be the same.
That makes more sense, yeah.
Yeah, I thought we had a closer rendering of that somewhere, in the package. I thought I saw it in the package.
There were a couple different renderings, yes.
That's just the one, maybe.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm going out on a limb. It's going to be both. So if it's not, I'll come back and talk to you. But I don't see him doing something that
That'd
look like that.
That'd be consistent with the architectural
Yeah, it'd
elevations.
look funny, and they don't make stuff that looks funny. So
We don't have any fencing around that retention pond.
what's that?
We have no fencing around that retention pond. We have no fencing around the retention pond. There's no fencing around that
Okay.
retention pond. So I think, to Oren's comment, the only chain link fencing
Okay.
that we have is down at the end of that cul-de-sac where, it's not a main set of traffic.
I tell you what we want, but I mean, that's the only item we're going to argue about. It. Assume go watch the Packers.
All right. Well, then, I'll move to approve.
Can I-
Go ahead.
Can I just mention one thing? So my computer crashed, so I can't do any motions or anything, but I just want to state that, in my opinion, the chain link fence would be a good thing to keep.
So I'll move to approve the proposed amendment to the final development plan as presented for the Honey Creek Plan Development District for the property located on Honey Creek Road west of Executive Drive, RA 491500002, subject to conditions 1 through 18.
Second.
Questions or discussion on the motion?
Is that including the fence?
That includes the fence. That includes doing the decorative fence. So that's the recommendation item. Now I lost it. Sorry. 4, thank you. Yes, item 4, the developer shall install a 6-foot black ornamental metal fence along the eastern and northern lot lines of the development in lieu of the previously approved 6-foot black vinyl coated chain link fence, subject to review and approval by the village zoning administrator. So that's in my motion. Other questions or discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks for going through all our questions on both items. Recommendations for future agenda items, revised requirements for conditional use permit notifications. Anything else?
I have another suggestion, and Orin, chime in, I'm catching a little off guard, but we may have spoken about this previously. I'm wondering if it might make sense for the Plan Commission to look at the extraterritorial zoning area. Right now, it's just 1.5 miles outside of village boundaries, period. And there are some directions that it really doesn't make sense, in my mind, for us to be reviewing those, but Orin, you might feel differently. My suggestion would be that Orin reviews that and makes some suggestions to the Plan Commission. Sometimes I feel like we're getting these ETZ for like land splits, like I can think of one a couple years ago on Stringer's Bridge Road, and it didn't really make sense to me because I don't see the village growing that way. Orin, do you have any specific thoughts on that?
Well, so it's state statute that allows you to have the authority within the 1.5 miles of your borders. And your borders are what they are, and they'll change as you potentially annex land around you. I have seen communities that waive that right by agreement. I have a client who has a boundary agreement with another community, and they don't, unless there's, I think, an issue with, they have certain areas that are considered gateways, and they look at development within a gateway area, but those are targeted properties, not just anything within 1.5 miles. And so you don't have to assert your authority. You can defer it, but I think it's probably one or the other. You're
Okay,
either-
then I was mistaken. I thought maybe they could identify, like areas where they wanted to apply that 1.5 miles versus areas that they didn't. So if that's not the case, then I retract my suggestion.
No, I think what you could do is look at your, land use plan, and, are the land uses that you're looking at around your borders that might be within the town, are you good with all of those? And are your goals for those areas the same now as they were when you originally did the land use plan from the comp plan that established that? That is something that you could look at and potentially change. Again, you have the extraterritorial jurisdictional review area, but there's a difference between that and extraterritorial zoning. So those are two different things. So you have the plat review part, and that's kind of where these come up, right? So the extraterritorial jurisdiction for the plat review, we're limited in scope in what we can look at. You could establish extraterritorial zoning where you actually have more say in the actual land uses for those areas that they're around your periphery. But for now, yeah, for the extraterritorial jurisdiction, I think that it's the state that sets that distance.
Yeah, I'd rather just take a look at it, revisit the concept of us doing boundary agreements. Since they got shot down a few years ago, maybe they're open to it now. Okay. Good discussion. All right, next meeting, December 8th, 2025, 6:30. I will move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Go Pack, go.